We learned a lot about a lot of teams in week 10, and these teams got exposed. These teams were punks, and they were pulling the wool over the eyes of a Gambini, but not anymore. We learned a lot about these teams, and we know who they are. Clemson absolutely stomped and embarrassed at home in a night game in Death Valley by Louisville. It's just embarrassing. They had no business losing the way that they did. They got dominated everywhere. It was by the end of the third quarter, they were down about 20 points, and they never had a shot in this game. Louisville just pantsed them. Clemson was 10-point favorites, and they never had a chance in the game at home in a night game. Just embarrassing. They looked to be fraudulent from what they had just been doing and just spanking inferior opponents. Well, it turns out that's really all it was. They were just beating inferior opponents. Now Louisville comes in, has a pulse, and they take care of business and just embarrass you. Tough place for Clemson right now. A&M, they came off a big win over LSU. Were riding high. Marcel Reed was coming in. He looked good. And they just got smoked by a South Carolina team that has struggled on offense the entire season. And South Carolina ends up putting up 44 points on your defense, on your good A&M defense. Man, a little fraudulent here too, I think, with A&M. They haven't figured out that quarterback thing, and their defense got exposed. So we thought that they were actually pretty good, but if South Carolina is putting up 44 points on you, you got some real trouble. Speaking of a defense putting up a lot of points, Wisconsin just getting absolutely trucked by Iowa. They let up 42 points to Iowa, and it's not the Iowa from last year or the past few years, but it's still not an offensive juggernaut. Now, they do have Caleb Johnson, who's been running the ball extremely well, maybe the best back in the Big Ten, but man, Wisconsin, your defense is supposed to be the identity of your team and of your program, and you just got absolutely smoked by a team whose historical profile is no offense. So that is embarrassing. Wisconsin, you have been exposed. Nebraska, I don't know what else to say, but you guys just still suck. And no matter who's your coach, who you got on the field, who's your quarterback, you guys just still suck. You can't get over. You might not go bowling again this year, and you can't get the wins, and you can't compete in the games that you should be winning. Another one-score loss, and a loss to UCLA, which is a bottom dweller of the new Big Ten. And the only thing to say is you still suck. Kansas State, you just lost to the worst team in the Big 12 in Houston. You went in as 9.5-point favorites to that game. You had one loss on your schedule, on your resume, and you had everything in front of you to compete for a Big 12 championship, and you got exposed by Houston, one of the worst teams in the conference. So, I mean, you've lost everything that you've had to hope for. I mean, you maybe still have a chance because the Big 12 just swallows itself up, but what an embarrassing loss for you, Kansas State. And then lastly, what has happened to Navy since Notre Dame just put Navy in the cemetery, 6 feet underground? They cannot rise for the rest of eternity or the rest of this season. They just lost to Rice as 2 touchdown favorites to Rice. And so their hopes for an American Conference championship bid has been absolutely stomped out. So a lot of these teams get exposed in this week, and we learned a lot of them. And that's what I think we can expect from a lot of these teams moving forward. Follow Big Body Ball CFB on all socials.